All right, let's dive right into this explainer. We're looking at what might honestly be the most shocking upset of the entire tournament. Just picture this for a second. A relentless statistical onslaught meeting a totally ruthless clinical executioner. You've got Brazil, the five-time World Cup champions, squaring off against Norway, a team pretty much everyone considered an absolute underdog. This isn't just a simple story about a 2-1 scoreline. No, this is a story of completely defied expectations, incredible defensive pressure, and some late-game heroics that just entirely flipped the script.
Just think about the sheer historic disparity between these two nations. It's staggering. On one side, you have Brazil. Right up until this match, they were the only team on the planet to reach the quarterfinals of every single World Cup from 1994 all the way through 2022. It's an unbelievable record of sustained excellence. And on the other side, you have Norway. They hadn't even qualified for a World Cup since 1998. So coming into this, expectations were strictly win or bust for the global powerhouse, playing against a nation that was just thrilled to finally be back on the world stage. But as we're about to see, historical pedigree definitely doesn't guarantee you a victory.
Section 1. Defying the data. The analytics of an upset.
Look, if you just glanced at the final 2-1 scoreline, you'd completely miss the overwhelming statistical reality of this match. The expected goals, or XG, tells a story of utter Brazilian dominance that somehow just didn't translate to a win. Brazil sits at a massive 2.73 expected goals, while Norway is way down at a mere 0.84. That disparity is absolutely wild. For the first 78 minutes of this match, Brazil heavily dictated the flow of the game. They were creating high-quality chances left and right. Statistically speaking, they really should have scored nearly 3 goals based on the chances they had. Meanwhile, Norway wasn't even expected to score 1 full goal. And that pressure makes even more sense when we look at the total shots, 14 for Brazil, just 9 for Norway. Again, the numbers clearly show Brazil's wasted chances and the immense, unrelenting pressure they put on that Norwegian defense. For 78 minutes, Brazil were undeniably the better team. But hey, this is knockout football, and dominating the shot count and the expected goals means absolutely zero if you can't actually put the ball in the back of the net.
Section 2. Nyland's Masterclass. The Norwegian Wall.
So, if Brazil was dominating the stats so heavily, how on earth did Norway survive? Well, the answer mostly lies with 35-year-old goalkeeper Erling Nyland, the oldest player on the Norwegian squad. Let's walk through the timeline for a second because this guy was the defensive anchor standing against a total Brazilian tide. Right out of the gate, in the 12th minute, Brazil gets a VAR-awarded penalty after Matheus Cunha is taken down. Normally, this is exactly where the floodgates open, right? But Nyland dives low to his left and pushes away Guimarães' penalty. Massive momentum shift. And he definitely didn't stop there. Later in the first half, he claws away this fierce strike from Rayan. Early in the second half, he pulls off another outstanding stop on Guimarães. And late in the second half, when Martin Odegaard lost possession dangerously close to the box, Nyland literally throws out a leg to totally thwart Vinicius Jr. The guy was a human wall.
Nyland's heroics were undeniably a huge factor in this historic victory, and you can really feel the emotional weight of his performance when you hear this quote from Norway's coach, Ståle Solbakken. He said, "I think that all Norwegian citizens are experiencing the night of a lifetime. Probably they will party for a week or so." I mean, Nyland's saves didn't just keep his team in the game, they kept the hopes of an entire nation alive, completely setting the stage for what happened next.
Section 3. Haaland the Executioner. 12 minutes of chaos.
All right, so we've established Brazil's statistical dominance, and we've talked about Nyland's stubborn resistance. But then, in the 79th minute, the tactical dynamic just flipped entirely. The deadlock is finally broken, and it's not by Brazil. Andreas Schjelderup sends in a brilliant cross from the left wing, and Erling Haaland literally towers over his Arsenal nemesis, Gabriel, heading the ball right past Alisson. The sudden shock of this moment really cannot be overstated. After weathering 78 minutes of intense Brazilian storms, Norway punished Brazil's wasted chances with absolutely ruthless, clinical precision. To really understand the severity of the defensive breakdown that actually allowed this to happen, listen to this scathing critique from Gary Neville over on ITV. He delivered a super blunt assessment of Gabriel's positioning, saying, "I'm fuming with Gabriel. For him to stay 5 yards off him and go for a straight race on a header, it's crazy. Block his run, get tight to him." But he's the best at that, Haaland. Once he runs at you and gets a run on you, you're dead. It's such a fascinating insight into the fatal mistake of giving the world's most lethal striker even an inch of a head start. So right after that goal, Brazil pushes desperately for an equalizer. They threw absolutely everything forward. But in the 90th minute, Haaland capitalized on all that desperation. He found some space from long range and just fired this decisive, powerful low shot right into the corner. Alisson had absolutely no chance.
2 goals in 12 minutes. And just like that, the match, for all intents and purposes, was totally over. Now, the very end of the match did offer a deeply bittersweet moment for the Brazilian fans. Neymar, who had actually come on in the 67th minute to huge roars from the pro-Brazil crowd, managed to pull one back late from the penalty spot. It was essentially his last dance on the world stage. But that penalty goal is heavily contrasted against the otherwise lackluster overall display from the 5-time champions, who ultimately ended up crashing out of the tournament.
Section 4. The Haaland Numbers. A Golden Legacy.
Let's zoom out from the match itself for a second and look at the broader context of this legendary performance. 27. What this mind-bending number represents is that Erling Haaland has now scored 27 goals during an active 14-game scoring streak for Norway. I mean, just let that sink in. His efficiency in front of the net for his national team is nothing short of historic.
Because of these 2 goals, Haaland has now moved perfectly level with Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe at the front of the Golden Boot race. All 3 of them are sitting on 7 goals. He is officially at the very top of the global game. Plus, he became the first Norwegian player ever to score 2 goals in a knockout match in a major international tournament, and his overall tally? An absolutely absurd 62 goals in just 54 appearances for Norway.
But you know what's truly fascinating? The human element this brings to his almost robotic efficiency on the pitch. After the match, Haaland himself was basically in a state of disbelief. He said, "I dreamt of playing in the World Cup with Norway, but I never expected to win against Brazil. I thought it was not possible to do some things, but I guess I'm wrong." It's wild to think that even the man breaking all the records didn't foresee actually toppling these historic football giants.
Section 5. History Rewritten. The Aftermath.
As soon as the final whistle blew, the paths of these 2 nations diverged so dramatically. For Brazil, it's a really painful yet familiar ending. Carlo Ancelotti was brought in specifically to end Brazil's curse against European teams, but tonight he completely failed. This actually marks Brazil's 6th straight World Cup exit at the hands of European opposition since their last title way back in 2002. The greatest footballing nation of the 20th century is somehow unable to cross the quarterfinal barrier for the 3rd tournament in a row. Meanwhile, for Norway, the impossible just keeps happening. They've advanced to their first ever quarterfinal, and they'll be packing their bags to face England in Miami on July 11th.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a really provocative thought to chew on as we wrap up this explainer. Does this match prove that tactical dominance is totally meaningless without clinical execution? I mean, Brazil had the expected goals, they had the massive shot volume, they clearly controlled the flow of the game. But Norway, they had Nyland's absolute heroics, and they had Erling Haaland's ruthless finishing. It really forces us to ask what truly wins football matches at the highest possible level: the beautiful build-up or the deadly strike? Think about it. Thanks for joining me for this one, and keep questioning the numbers.